Welcome to Witches of Workshop, a writing community podcast. I'm Lauren.
I'm Caroline, and this is where we brew better stories together. So if you want to be critiqued on the podcast, just send 1 to 10 pages and a synopsis to witchesofworkshop@gmail.com. Without further ado, let's get started.
Hello. So, friends, we're going to start things off a little differently this week. We're going to go right into our guest.
With our guest, life updates.
We're going to
Alex.
A. Lee Martinez.
I think we should introduce him after life updates because that will just hold the suspense.
Oh my gosh. So then everyone will just
know who this is.
Oh, okay, wait, let's go back. And then screw us, right? We're the idiots here. Okay. So what we like to do first here, sir, is we talk about what's brewing in our cauldrons. So we have our life cauldron first. So, sir, what's brewing in your life cauldron? Anything fun that you've done? Like, you know, Caroline and I saw Project Hail Mary this week. Anything fun that you would like to share with the people?
Yeah, I saw They Will Kill You. If anyone's heard of that. It's a weird, violent, surreal movie of a woman. She checks into it like as a maid in a hotel. I mean, as a apartment building in New York. But it turns out the apartment building is run by Satanists, and they have to do sacrifices, and she's a sacrifice.
Yes.
But spoiler alert, things do not go exactly as they planned.
Oh, they never do they?
Instagram has wanted me to watch this.
This is my first time hearing of it.
No.
Yeah, I thought it was excellent, especially it was only 90 minutes, but it was like it wasn't rushed. Had a great story. It has some cartoonishly gruesome violence. It helps that spoiler alert, most of the bad guys are immortal, so even though they get killed in gruesome ways, they kind of come back. And then it was just really well done, and all the actors are great, and I thought it was excellent.
This is in theaters?
Yes.
Like, I haven't heard
yes.
of it.
I feel like I'm really loving this resurgence of the 90-minute movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back shorter runtime.
Like, I really dig that. I also think like it forces storytellers to be like you got to be concise.
Well,
you
can cut. It's one of my favorite pieces of advice is you can cut that. Did you cut it? Probably could cut it some more. So it fits really well with my idea of what I like. I mean, I don't mind a longer movie when it's a good story, when it needs it. But I like, again, you can do so much, like watching this movie in 90 minutes. Like it easily, if they had a higher budget, could have been longer because it could have done some more like interesting violent scenes. But in the 90 minutes in the budget it did a great job.
I heard you in my head earlier when I was editing a current chapter I'm going to read tonight because all I heard was trim, trim, trim. This could be shorter, trim, 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 which we'll get into.
Yeah.
More Alex priceless tidbits.
Well, speaking not of a 90-minute movie, Caroline, what's brewing in your life cauldron?
Saw Project Hail Mary. So good. Would see again. It was just like the wholesome moment we needed right now. I did not read the book, which is not my MO. But like people kept saying the movie was so good. I was like, yeah, I'll take the 2.5-hour version of the story instead of locking in for the whole book, even though I'm sure the book is fabulous. Hauled away like 1,000-pound of wood chips in my front yard because my trees got grinded down till stumps. The wood chips still aren't gone. Thanks for asking. I offered to help my husband, and then after like an hour of helping him, I said, my tiny little delicate hands can't do this.
My lady hands.
Yeah, he was like, that was super helpful when you offered to help and then said that you were too delicate to help. So that's what's been going on in my life cauldron.
Yeah.
And you have an overlapping.
I do. I also saw Project Hail Mary. My husband was a insane fan of the book and demanded we go see it. I love Ryan Gosling. I love Sandra Hillier. It was a delight. It just made you like, I don't know. We both talked about space dread.
Ugh.
Space freaks me
Does
out.
space freak you out, special guest in the back?
Yeah. I'm also afraid of the ocean because
There's
dark,
something.
but at least ocean is on Earth and you could hypothetically get out.
There is a survival possibility. Like in space, you are screwed. You're
We
screwed
can't talk about it much longer.
because it's already giving me a panic attack. But yes, I also feel like I've been stuck in like an administrative stage of life where I'm like filling out paperwork for the boys' school, making sure that everybody signed up for this and summer school and that and paperwork for the doctor. Just so that has been kind of,
Ew.
I know.
Ooh,
I'm too pretty for this shit. My God. Okay. So that's life, Cauldron.
moving on.
Moving on.
Moving on to writing.
Okay.
Ooh, okay, now I'm gonna give a writing update. Alex.
I have not written enough lately.
That's your update.
That's it. That's all we've got.
I mean, I'm still working on a comic book script that I've been pitching to my agent, and I'm working on 2 books, 2 or 3 books, but really like one's kind of the main book, which is a sequel to my first book, 20 years too late. So, strike while the iron's hot, as they say. And then some other weird stuff.
It's a sequel to Gil's All Fright.
Yes, it's a sequel.
I recently read Gil's All Fright, so I'm actually like so stoked for a sequel because to me it is fresh.
There you go. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Nailed it. Oh yeah, writing updates. Still in the query trenches / waiting on submission replies, and then starting.
Very
a
cool.
next
That's great.
book.
That's great.
Thank you. Do what we can. 3,000 words in the new thing, so basically done. And I'm gonna read something from the new thing tonight for the first time, which is always scary and exciting to see what people
So this is new.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, cool.
How people receive a new project. Yeah, come to my critique room. No pressure. Lots of pressure. Live on the pod. Not live, but pressure. So that's what I'm doing.
You wasted all of our time. Please leave.
Any writing updates? Special guest in the back?
Oh no, I'm doing exactly what Alex is doing and not writing.
She does have a really cool update. Her agent sent her a list of submissions.
Yes.
So they're going to be submitting soon her book. I was super excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Yay! To like the relation of the special guest, or should we keep it mysterious and important, like severance?
I'm gonna let you leave.
I'll take it.
She'll be
She
on.
will. She will. I'm sure she will show up on this
She will
podcast soon. It's gonna
definitely be
amazing.
here.
Special review whenever.
And then I'll be in the back being the mystery
Yeah,
guest.
Only right.
I'm still trying to finish this damn book. Oh my God. I'm so close, and I just feel like I just need to finish the first draft and let it be shitty.
Yeah, you do. You do.
So I'm really close. I'm like 6,000 words away from the goal, and I don't even know if we're going to quite meet it, but I think we're just going to barrel through. And like, there's a few things that I know are unfinished. I'm just going to try to look at them and then just.
Is the full story on the page at least, even if your word count's not there?
Yes.
Then
Yeah.
time to send it,
Yeah, time to just get it done.
not to
Yeah.
like the agent.
No.
But to your trusted critique partner.
Yeah, we're going to send it to a first draft crew that's going to just tell me where it's before I.
Yeah.
Words are hard today, which is really bad for podcast.
Really bad for being a podcaster and a writer. Well, that was a great life update.
Yeah.
I think it's only fitting that we introduce who the heck we're talking to today. Okay. And he fact checked this, by the way. So my internet research is correct. Ailey Martinez, aka Alex, is a fantasy and science fiction author of more than 15 books, including the Constance Verity trilogy, Monster, and Divine Misfortune. His debut, mentioned, Gil's All Fright Diner, fittingly received the Alex Award from the Young Adult Libraries Association. He's a veteran member.
I
of the
want to interrupt real
DFW.
quick. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yes, do
I
it.
did fact check, but I also want to. It also got best book for young adults.
Oh, stop.
And my fourth book. I don't know. I've been doing this too long. My fourth book won the Amelia Bloomer Outstanding Feminist Fiction Award for young adults.
See, I didn't find that on the interwebs.
It's hidden.
The interwebs is lame.
Yeah.
He's a feminist.
Mm-hmm.
Feminist, y'all. So he is a veteran member of the DFW Writers Workshop and one of the best critiquers we know, always delivering the truest and spiciest takes. So please welcome Ailey Martinez, aka Alex. Woo, 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 woo.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super, super excited.
This is
That sounds sarcastic, but it wasn't. I
This is
am
the
super excited.
biggest podcast you've ever been on,
I
right?
mean, I haven't been on many podcasts.
It's not, but it is gonna be the best. Okay, I can kick us off.
let's do
let's
this.
let's get into it. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been writing seriously since you were a teenager. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have, like we said, over a dozen books published. So before we get into some hot takes, because we're gonna get into your hot takes, tell our listeners a little bit about your backstory. Like, how'd you start writing? How'd you find the workshop? All that
Oh.
good stuff.
All right. Well, the backstory is like most things in my life, I did it because I was bored. And so I started writing, when I was in high school and I didn't have friends. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't care. It's bad. I have friends now. It's cool. But, and so I just started writing. My mom kind of actually the first person, she said, let's write a book. And so we started working and then she got bored and kept writing. So I kept writing. And then near my end of my high school years, my English teacher, who I never remember her name, and it really bugs the crap out of me. She said, "Oh, here's a short story contest you could enter." So I entered it, and I won. Amazing, sparkling career. And I was like, I think I'm going to try this. And my mom was, "Well, you're too lazy to go to school, to college."
Thanks, Mom.
No, she was right. She was right. So, and she said, "We'll try this. We'll go for this. You'll do this for about 4 years. You don't eat very much. As long as you're writing and sending things out, we'll try it." And then after about 4 years, I hadn't gotten very far, but my mom was like, "No, I think you're really good at this. We can keep trying this." And at one point, we moved to Dallas, not to Dallas, but Balk Springs outside of Dallas. And she just found a flyer at the grocery store. This is before the internet. So she found a flyer at the grocery store that was for the DFW Writers Workshop, which is on Euless, which is the other side of Dallas. And at first I was like, "Oh, I don't want to go," because I kept thinking it was going to be like a bunch of pretentious people like, "Oh, your pathos did not pay off." And
There are those.
there are. There are. But finally my mom was like, obviously, like, this is why my mom gets thanked on my books, because she's the one who got me getting out of my way. And she was just like, "You want to do this? Go do this." So I drove and went to the workshop, and it was different at that time. There was a lot of older members, a lot of westerns, a lot of romance and thrillers, and I was kind of unique. I was younger. The population is much younger now than it was, but back then I was like, there was nobody my age, and I just read something and I joined, and I was like, "Well, let's see what they got," and they just gave me really good feedback, and I've been a member ever since. In fact, the workshop is how I got my first book published. It was an editor. Members kept meeting at different conferences. Finally, he said, "Well, tell him to send me something," and that's how my first book got published. And since then, it's been nothing but superstardom.
Well, yeah, you can hardly go down the street without people stopping and asking you for a picture because authors are famous for their faces, as we know.
Okay, my God. Okay. So how long have you been involved with the workshop then?
30 years about.
Okay.
I've been here,
Okay.
but I'm the second longest member, current member.
And why do you think that our workshop in particular, but any just like really serious writing group, like why do you think it actually does propel careers?
Well, it depends, because there's different reasons, and different workshops are probably different advantages. I think our group, it does all of them, which is really nice. It helps to encourage you. It helps to give you a sort of a goal to meet. It helps you with actual practical knowledge. Like, there's so many things you don't know when you start out writing about how this business works and how to do it. And our workshop, DFW, is really great because it has, all the different people who are different examples of, self-publishing, independent publishing, traditionally publishing, but also it's a constantly refreshing group. Like, a lot of my experience is aged out. It's just not very useful. Like, I can't really help you with querying very much, because the steps that I did, I mean, again, I'm old. So like, I sent through a mail and stuff like that, but there's someone I can always point to help you out. So I think it does all those elements, but lots of smaller groups, they give you help because they help you feel like it's not weird. They give you direction, and they can just give you good feedback. So there's all different reasons why it can be very helpful. There's a lot of groups that are just okay, but they can still help you in other ways.
Mhm. Okay, so speaking of help, like obviously to me and Lauren and probably everyone at Workshop, like you're known as someone who offers a lot of helpful critique to other people because you're so experienced. But I want to know about a critique you received for your work that like stuck with you or changed the way you write.
This is not exactly a critique, but it was something, and it was only a couple of years ago. Helen Dent said it to me one time, and I was stuck on writing a book, and I couldn't get it to work. I think it's actually the book that's going to come out later this year, hopefully. And Helen was like, "Have you tried not caring?" And I just changed. It's something I think about a lot. Like, it's just changed the way I do a lot of my writing now. It's like whenever I get stuck, I'm just like, "Who cares? Who cares? Just write it. Nobody cares. I can fix it later." And maybe I can't, but it sure, I'll still get stuck sometimes because I get distracted. But it's a piece of advice about writing that's just stuck with me for forever. And then, the other traditional things I've heard. What's another piece of advice that um I think that's just the one that kind of comes to mind the most right now.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one before actually, but that's really
Helen
good.
Helen always gets embarrassed when I mention it because she was at a panel at some place and I mentioned it. And asked her a question about writer's block and she gave the answer and I said, "You also the Helen Dent advice of don't care." And she just kinda, like, blushed, and I was like and she always tried to make it nicer. She's like, "Well, don't care so much." I'm like, "No, don't
Don't
care."
Yeah, and
And
take the credit.
it's really useful. Yeah, and it's really useful, and it's funny because it was I think maybe 6 months later, she was having trouble in her book, and I said, "Have you tried not caring?" And she was just like, "That's great." I said, "It's yours. I'm using yours." So it's one of
Well,
the great
isn't
pieces of
that
advice.
so funny how like cyclical are like
Yeah, yeah,
somebody's struggling and you're like this, I've got this
yeah.
perfect nugget for you. And then literally 6 weeks later, you're like, and they're like, wait, have you thought about the exact thing? And it's just, whew, whew.
Well, even like in my, marriage with the special guest who shall not be named,
You
we
gave away the
we
relationship.
have well, they don't know. Could be anybody. That could be no, but there's this thing we do. Well, that's right. There's this thing we do,
He
which I
does not
always
have
like.
many wives.
There's this
This
thing.
is a safe place.
There's the thing she's said. We say where it'll be like, "Oh, I'm panicking," and we kind of trade off. "Oh, you're panicking. Okay, I'm in charge. Oh, I'm panicking. You're in charge." And it's really useful, right? And it can be in the same day, like switching back and forth. And I think at the workshop you get that all the time, right? Because we all feel down.
Yeah.
We all feel like we're this. It's like any job, but especially there's so many times you're like, I feel like I'm screwed or everything's falling apart. And it's nice that you're right. You can go, "Hey, let me help you." And then later on, you're like, "Oh, I'm screwed." And one of the things that at the workshop happens a lot, I'm sure you've seen this too, is somebody's always like, we're always kind of downplaying our success because we don't want to invest too much in it emotionally because then it'll break us. But there's always somebody to tell us it's a big deal. It's cool. It's a big deal.
Mhm.
It's cool. And I think it's great that you're humble, but it's also nice that there's somebody to help you with that and that give you that outside perspective and also give you permission to do that stuff.
Are all writers self-deprecating and have amnesia?
No, some writers are really full of themselves.
Did we have a special guest comment?
Hi.
Yes.
Well, I guess I'm in this. Hi.
Hey.
One of the reasons, so I've been coming to the DFW Writers Workshop for 18 years, ever since I started dating this guy. And this is just what we do is we hang out and talk about writing all the time. Hi, I'm Sally.
Spoiler.
That's Sally.
Hi. So I'm an artist. I have a degree in graphic design. And one of the things that I've noticed about our workshop that is different than other writing groups is that we offer constructive criticism. And we're not just a back patting society. We're not just like, oh, this was really good, or oh yeah, like, oh, my mom liked it. Yeah, like, yeah. Which is great, It's valid, but also we give constructive criticism. And that is one of the things that Alex is best known for. And that's one of the things I think that separates our workshop from other workshops is because we've interacted with other workshops where it's like, oh, I like this, or I like this part was nice. And then it's like, okay, but how do you improve it? And they're like, what do you mean? Like,
Or even why was that part nice?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's not
Yes.
as helpful if you tell me like I liked this. I'm like, okay, but how do I know how to do it again if
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
what made
That's
it
true, that's true.
good?
What resonated with you to make it nice? Like, yeah, no,
Mhm.
yeah.
We're special.
We're special. Okay,
Well-
well now you're here for our spicy take.
Okay,
Sally.
so
boy.
we're gonna take you through this kind of current story. We've done some little fact checkies through the Guardian and Fast Company, but it's about an author who had a book published in the UK and then had a book canceled here in the US for suspected AI use. For you friends out there who might not be familiar, so Shy Girl by Mia Ballard was published by a UK press in November of 2025, and it was set for publication here in 2026. But a controversy over AI usage led to its discontinuation in the UK and the cancellation of the publishing here. So, according to the Times, the publisher pulled the book a day after it was approached by a newspaper with what it described as evidence that the novel was AI generated. There's a lot of YouTube, TikTok,
Substack.
lots and lots and lots. And I think that even though people say that some of the percentages may be exaggerated, it was definitely probably AI. So, I would also like to note the author has since deactivated all of her social media accounts. She also is on record saying that a friend who edited it for her used an AI-based editing software. So this is one of our favorites of your hot takes, but what do we think about AI in writing and like the publisher's role versus the author's role, AI detection? Just let loose on us, sir.
Also, had you heard about this?
Yes, I had heard about this. Well, okay, so my first hot take is that I think in a world where AI writing exists, I think a lot of people are going to see it where it doesn't exist. There's a lot of bad writers. I don't know how to say this without being mean. There's a lot of bad writers. And so somebody's going to be like, this is really bad. Yeah, it's bad. A human wrote it. So there's that to begin with. And even when they say stuff like, oh, well, it's really repetitive. Yeah, there's a lot of people who write like that. I don't know what to tell you. So I'm a little concerned because I feel like I'm hearing it a lot, and my mind is. I do think it's obviously it's happening, so I do believe that. But I do think sometimes it's just it's a weird way of discrediting somebody who worked hard on something and they're just not that good. I mean, I don't know how to say that. My second take is, um, it's not something. See, and this is why I don't think I don't find AI to be the threat other people do, but I also do think it's a threat to people who are kind of average. Uh, because, and I don't. By the way, I'm not trying to say dismiss the people who are average. Average writers should exist and they should be allowed to write. And it's always going to be subjective. It's the same as like artists, right? Who would do art. And someone pointed out that like if you have a specific style, you're probably not going to be replaced. If you have a following, you're probably not going to be replaced. But if you're sort of an average artist who's good at like doing commissions, you're probably going to be replaced by this machine. And that sucks because average artists should have a place to exist. And I don't know why we need a machine to do that. I do think it's weird that people are trying to sell it like that. The editor, oh, I edited it with AI. Why? Why? It's just edit it. Just do it. Like do your job. And I also do think, again, who knows in the future, but AI right now does not make anything easier when it comes to writing. Like I've heard somebody say that, right? They'll be like, oh, I'm going to have it write the book and then I'll clean it up. It's just as much work, if not more work to clean it up. Just write something, right? And so I do think, that those are my hot takes on it of all those things. But I do think this idea that it's a shortcut that's going to solve problems. So far I haven't seen it work for art very well.
Yeah. Special guest. Any takes on? Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, okay.
You got to hold the mic for this one.
Yeah. So as an artist, when I was in school, one of the things you do is you learn how to trace stuff in Illustrator using the pen tool. It's a whole thing. And there is an ability in it to auto trace, but honestly, the auto trace is awful. And you have spent just as much time cleaning up the thing that you auto trace as it would be if you had just drawn it yourself.
Exactly.
That's what I feel like the AI is like. We're like, well, I'm just gonna knock it out and then I'm gonna clean it up. You're gonna spend so much more time trying to fix something than if you like imagine you have a fresh canvas that you can paint a painting on, or you have a canvas that has a janky face on it, and now you're gonna try to make it look not janky. It's always gonna have the bones, the DNA of the janky face. It's always gonna have the bad writing hidden in there because you're
Mhm.
just trimming and cutting and adding and moving stuff around instead of just creating. So I think right now we're at the point where the pendulum is swinging the other way. Where like AI is cool. Now it's like AI is bad, and we're gonna out anybody who dares to use it.
Well, and it also highlights that art, I mean, I don't want to be pretentious here. Art is not a formula. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, because I do believe as the AI gets better, it'll lose a lot of it's the same way they used to have trouble with hands. It does better with hands now, generally. But like, it's still kind of what makes it a illustration interesting is not just a formula. What makes a story interesting is not just a formula. And I think it just highlights that it's a, and it is also a weird thing for someone to do because and I do think, by the way, you could use it and clean everything up and do it. But people who want to use AI don't want to do the work. So that's why it's harder, but also they're kind of lazy. It's a
Yeah.
lazy tool. So
I don't know if this reminded you of this book, Lauren, but this whole scandal reminded me of a little bit of Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, where in that story, a white author writes a story that's like a Chinese history historical fiction. I might be getting the country wrong, I can't remember, but a country that's not hers.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yep. But it was
But she steals the manuscript from her dead friend.
And there's a big conversation when people inevitably find out that like she's white and this isn't her heritage, like coming after her, but then also we're like, well, the publisher knew this about you too, and they were okay with it. So it's interesting to see like that this author, and she's been public,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
has
it's
messed with
interesting
her
how
mental
much of the
health so
heat
much. Yeah.
it is, how much of the heat she is taking when the publisher was kind of part of the process and knew it. And so one of the takes I heard online was that, you know, again, a woman of, I think she's a minority, right? Like, that there's no support from the publisher, even though they knew what they were kind of stepping in to begin with. And so there's even that baggage, right? Like it's easier, it'll be a tool used to dismiss, we already know this is true. It's going to be a tool to use to dismiss minorities and women's writing when instead of just being like, oh, maybe they're not a good writer, instead it'll be like, oh, they wrote it with AI. And you're like, that's worse.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that too, where we were looking at some of the sentences from this book together and we were like, is it, or is it just bad writing?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's hard to, I do think that some of it was because in my marketing job, we use some generative AI for writing some like menial tasks. And so when you use all the time, you do recognize like the cadence and the flow.
Yeah.
And
Well, and there's also the controversy about the stolen cover. So she's already demonstrated.
Right.
She's always demonstrated. But it is the thing where she is taking more heat than a lot of other writers would. And that's a bigger comment about the internet. I've said that before on the internet. As a whitish male writer, I'm protected on the internet, even though it's just like I don't get harassed on the internet the same way a woman does.
Right.
Even though it's just people yelling at each other on the internet, I'm still protected. So you talk about the same way. She's not as protected as some other writer would be.
Good takes.
I see.
Oh, I'm excited for this one. Okay, I'm gonna quote you back to you,
Oh, boy.
Alex.
Oh, no.
And this is kind of a two-parter, so I want you to hear the whole thing. So you have famously said to New York Times bestselling author Katie Burnett before she wrote Beth is Dead, and I quote, and I'm gonna swear, even though I don't normally, your characters are too nice. And to Lauren about one of her chapters, it's just two nice people talking. Tell us what you meant by those statements, and why is it so bad if characters are nice?
Okay, you notice the quote here is too fucking nice.
Right.
Nice characters are fine. Good characters. One, we're making the mistake of thinking good characters and nice characters. People can be good and still have an edge to them. People can be basically trying to get along and still have a conflict going on. And like when I mentioned, like with Katie, it was a scene, and a lot of our scenes were characters being too reasonable with each other. They were just like, "Hey, I feel this way." Well, I hear that, and I'm like, nobody wants to listen to that.
But why not? Why is it
Because
why
it's
not?
dull. Well, it's also just not interesting in the sense of what characters talking to each other and having an edge. And I don't mean an edge like being mean, but talking to each other in interesting ways. And so what I say by nice is I really do mean it is like it's two characters that are just like too polite with each other, too like they need to have a little bit of an edge with each other, even if they're not trying to be, and so I think that's where the problem comes. It's not, I think it's a mistake to think of like conflict. It doesn't mean conflict, but like uh they need to have an edge where they kind of are interesting to listen to. And two really nice characters are not interesting to listen to if they're both reasonable and they're both being polite. Then it's just not as interesting to listen to. It's the execution that's interesting. They can still be really nice to deal with it, but you want them to have something that makes them interesting to listen to. It's the experience of the scene needs to be interesting, not just what's going on, not just plot, not just story, not characterization. I want to be glad I'm there and why I'm here for that. And so that's what I often mean by characters being too nice. It doesn't happen a lot. Like again, Katie, I think I'm going to take my small role of mentor here, but she did say, like, I remember it's funny that night I was reading on Unbearable, and that scene, there's a scene where Ortiz, the main character, is meeting his girlfriend, and they just don't get along because he's dumb and she knows he's dumb, and And they're sort of there, and I was like, I hope this works because I want them to get the chemistry that they like each other sort of, but they're both kind of antagonistic. And I remember Katie going like, "Oh, I get it," and it was because that was a little more extreme because they're a little bit more antagonistic towards each other. But it was still, it's the experience that matters, and that's why if characters are too nice to each other, the experience tends to be bland. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that reminds me of another of your kind of like common examples I've heard you give people about like kind of cutting out details that don't matter,
Yeah.
where you've used this example before many times where you're like, if there's a phone call in the book, you don't need to start it with, hello, hi, how are
Yeah,
you? How's your
yeah.
day? Like, even though that's how you talk in real life, we don't need those types of real life details that are just not needed. Would you like to bare your soul about how this changed your chapter? When you
It ended up becoming a really funny line in my book, so I was greatly appreciative. But no, it's true. It's like no one single character in a book, like if they're just, it's kind of like improv when you're doing like yes and like you keep like just giving them and giving them and it's like, oh, this is flowing so well. It's like, but it's like the tension, if you just stop it and you're like, well, that I don't know, it's different but the same to me. It's like two nice people talking is like there's no, I don't know, there's not that tension that maybe they're not gonna say the right thing or that this like it's hard though in romance because at a certain point they both have to be on the same page. And so it's like making sure that it's interesting,
Right.
which is one of the questions that's later, but I think we should just talk about it now is because you talk about that a lot. And you've told Caroline, I know I've been in rooms where you've talked about how it doesn't really matter whether something is like accurate, as she said, or like the doctor's office. Like we see somebody and they go in and they do all the steps. And you're like, okay, we all been to a doctor. Like we don't
Yeah.
need that. So like, what's the interesting part of this scene? So it sounds like really simple in concept.
Yeah.
But can you explain how some writers perhaps maybe get hung up on the things that aren't helping them make a book
Yeah. Okay.
interesting?
Yeah. So the key here to me is always about, you're always informing the reader. You're always entertaining or engaging the reader. And so when you do something like he goes to the doctor's office, he walks down the hall, he checks in with the nurse. What am I learning? Nothing. You're just telling me the steps of going to a doctor's office. So unless you're telling me something like he slowly walks down the hall and there's like all this kind of atmosphere that makes you feel dreaded, then okay, I'm feeling dread. I get that. I'm supposed to be feeling dread. And it's the same way, like not just about phone calls, but like I mentioned in phone calls, like I think you should avoid phone calls as much as possible in books. It's because it's a really boring way to have a conversation. And it doesn't matter if it makes sense. It's like Seinfeld. They just go to each other's house and talk to each other. Who cares? Let's do it. Or like they'll do things where sometimes somebody will write something and there'll be two scenes that take place one after the other and they're kind of the same scene. They just put them together, put it into one scene. And so I think the mistake is, and I've said this before, is you never should mistake your fiction for reality because it's not reality. And that's it. Because in real life, we do say hello and goodbye because it would be weird to be like, oh, I'm on my way. Right? Or so I think the key is always giving something that is informing or engaging or entertaining the reader. And if you're doing it because you feel like it's information they need to understand the scene, we'll have to ask yourself, do they need it? We've all been to the doctor's office. One of my favorite bits is like a lot of times my characters might have a car, and I don't even mention the car because it's assumed they have a car. You never saw them drive, but they got here and here. How did they get here? They drove, they parked. Who cares? It doesn't matter, right? Unless the car is important, or unless the scene takes place, an important scene takes place in the car, we can skip that. Same way, if they have access to airplane, and they fly, who cares? We know how they got there. It's just this real tendency to be, I want to give you this information because I need to explain it, and I don't think you need it. I think 95% of the time you don't need it. And if you are going to do it, it should be something that's. I love Columbo, right? You watch Columbo, and Columbo often will have the character doing something. We don't know why they're doing it. Like he's doing something weird, and he's doing something, and the music's like watching, and we're like, ooh, I'm watching them prepare something, and it's giving me the dread. That's where I think is where we fall. And when somebody, it's like it's basically housekeeping. I don't need housekeeping unless it tells me something.
Mhm. So would you say a lot of that also falls to trusting that the reader is smart and they like don't need certain things?
Well, it is one of the hardest things. I mean, a new writer is always want to give you the history of the universe. Like they always want to give you everything all the time. They don't want to just give you that. They'll even they always stop the story to be like, the character says something and they go, here's why the character said something. Here's why they said, do you understand? And then they'll go, they walk into a room and they're like, the room is, and they'll describe like a meticulously clean room. And then they'll go, they're very meticulous. You're like, I got it. I understood by the room you did to me. So new writers tend to, in the same way, they love to stop and go, when they were 12, this happened. And you're like, I don't need to know that yet. And it's not really that interesting. So I think it's just it's a question of trust, but it's also a question of when you teach, part of teaching is learning how much information I need to give you. So it's the same way as a writer, we have to learn how much of the story do I need to give you?
Special guest part 2. Do you have any tidbits on interesting writing?
I mean, imagine having to read the Silmarillion before you can read The Hobbit. Like that's kind of what it feels like. And again, been a member of the workshop for 18 years. You see it every 3 months or so. A new guy comes in, they read their first chapter, and they're trying to give you the history of the universe to give you context because they feel that you need that before they give you something interesting. And I'm going to give you guys the secret. People like characters. They like really interesting characters and like stuff happening to the characters. And then later you can give them context of why it was interesting or whatever. But the most successful books give you an interesting character in an interesting situation and they build the world around that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Dan Hoff who once, was it Dan Hoff? I think it was, who she was like, you could just cut right ahead to that. And she would just be like, and right here, you could just cut right ahead to that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh,
I've been given that
right.
advice a lot lately at the workshop. I've been doing that whole chapter could have been cut. You could have just started. There's a phrase I used one time. It's like start as close to the dungeon door as possible.
Yeah,
and it's like I didn't need the 20 minutes in town before they got to the dungeon. I just need them at the dungeon to get in there. Start fighting dragons.
Well, we're talking about first time writers' problems, but what about when it comes to publishing? Do you have any spicy takes or do you have any advice that you would give to a new writer who romanticizes the publishing industry?
Oof. I mean, don't. I mean, the primary advice I give in this day and age is, self-publishing is becoming more viable and more realistic and more, I think, good. It's more functional. It's more optional. But I will stand by, don't do self-publishing because you think you're a special privileged. Your vision is so grand that the publishing industry won't understand it because that, excuse my French, is bullshit. And that's the main tip I would give. Otherwise, the publishing industry is full of heartbreak. It's full of delays. It's a long process. And even if you self-publish, it's a long process. And if it's not, then you're doing it badly. And also, it's just a lot of waiting and a lot of throwing. We all know. Look at these. Look at this. We all know.
We're not okay.
They haven't been doing nearly as long as I have, and they still know what it's like. And so I think that's the thing. There's a lot of waiting. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of investment. And it's just, that's the publishing industry. And also, you'll work your ass off. You'll believe in it, and you'll throw it out in the universe, and nobody will care. And that's just what it is. You're not gonna Hey, if you want to write one book, cool. But if you really want to do this in any kind of capacity, not just professionally, but just to get people interested, you got to write more than one thing. You got to realize it's a long journey. And that's my number one tip.
Nailed it.
So much waiting. I can't emphasize that enough.
So depressed. We've literally talked about how we don't even like to open our emails anymore because we're just like, do we think there's going to be? There's not going to be news.
No,
there's no news.
I am like a love-struck middle schooler waiting for the boy she likes to text her back, and he doesn't like me. I'm checking every 45
But maybe tomorrow.
seconds.
Maybe he likes you tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow.
I'll forget to text my husband back. You best believe I refreshed my email 4 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, maybe they like me now.
Yeah.
They don't.
I think we have time for our last question. Oh yeah, because then we have some little rapid fires that we're gonna do. But okay, so I know that I feel like we've maybe talked about this already, but still, just because I want to see you get a little angry. You're quite well known in our workshop for being just unabashedly honest. So
Bombastic.
what common mistake drives you like absolutely insane. And I know that Alex is actually very kind, especially to new readers. It's generally the people that have been given
Yeah.
advice more than 20 times that he gets really. But is there something that just gets your goat?
I mean, to me, it goes back to not cutting. I get really frustrated. I do get mad when someone's like reading their 5th version of something, and it's just like, man, cut that shit. And that's one of the most frustrating things to me is because somebody, and it doesn't happen a lot because most people learn and figure it out, but occasionally get somebody who's just going to be like, no, you have to understand everything. And I'm like, I don't have to understand shit. And that really, it doesn't get me, man, I'm not going to yell at him, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, I just hate that. I'm like, man, I could just stop listening for like 10 minutes before you got to the stuff that's important. And I know that, and it drives me crazy. But anytime, the other one that bothers me, and just in general, is when people keep getting a piece of advice, like get feedback from everybody, not just a few people, everybody in the room. And then they go to the next week and they do it again, and they're still getting the same feedback. And every time they're like, no, everybody's wrong. And I'm like, well, it's possible. I mean, it's always possible, but I'm just not taking that bet. And that bothers me a lot too. When I'm like, everybody's told you, I've been in 3 rooms where everybody in the room told you this is not going to work. And you're just like, no, it'll work. And I'm just like, okay, that bothers me a lot.
We can be delusional, but not that delusional.
Right. Well, you're allowed to defend your thing and your writing and try to make it work. But I do get frustrated when it's like, it's not working. And you're like, I think it is. Okay, fine.
Well,
Why are you here?
Why are you here? Yeah.
yeah. See if the
Oh, you
publishing
got something-
boyfriend
you got
texts
something?
you back.
I was gonna say that goes into my thing, which is every once in a while get somebody who comes in and they're like, I'm just gonna read it. I don't really want feedback. And I'm like, oh no, we're not here to be
Yeah.
your audience.
Yeah.
Like we're here to help you become a better writer.
Oh, I give you another one.
Yeah.
Here's another one.
Yeah.
The other one that bugs me is we can read for up to 15 minutes. And sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have that. But the one that'll always bug me is somebody who reads for exactly 15 minutes and just stops mid-sentence. And then they come next week and they just start mid-sentence. And I'm like, you have to know, you will get so much stronger critique when you understand what a scene is and a chapter is and where to stop. And there are people that, they don't happen a lot, but there are people who come in and just read there for 15 minutes and then they don't have understand of, in almost always they never have a understand of pacing and payoff. And that one gets me pretty annoyed. The few times I've gotten mad at people, like, and I've had that problem, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to say anything, or I'm going to say something, but that's it, So that one bothers me because understanding pacing and how to create a scene that pays off is just hugely important about what you're doing with the story.
Yeah. What you doing? Don't talk at me.
I definitely need your help with my chapter because I know it needs to be cut, but I just don't know where, Alex. So I'm sure I trust you to tell me.
Give him a printout and a red pen. We'll take care of it.
Oh, just draws an X over the entire thing.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't need to know any of this about this character. I'm like,
A little give up
okay.
at the bottom with a heart. Oh no.
He would never say that. Well, maybe you would if someone was.
They'd have to frustrate you real bad, I
Yeah.
think, to get there.
Yeah.
You survived a podcast.
And we survived our first double guest.
Oh my gosh! Surprise guest, Sally Hamilton. So we have rapid fire questions. So basically we have 3 questions and we give each other like a sentence or 2 to give our rapid fire, and we'll just go boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
You have time?
Yeah.
Okay.
since you love, and you do both like love games, but you always have your games, your favorite game, it can be card, board, or video game.
My favorite game right now is a board game called Arcs, which is like a space empire game. There you go.
They would fill me with dread because space.
It's World of Warcraft, and the actual game of World of Warcraft is not the World of Warcraft. It is the guild politics of World of Warcraft.
Nerd.
And we love nerds. Oh, am I going next? Oh, speaking of nerds, my favorite game is Nerds, the card game, because I'm better at it than all my family.
Well, that's a good reason.
And they don't like to play it with me because of how hard I win.
She's a winner. Okay, phone game, obsessed with Gossip Harbor, the merge game. Video game, Hogwarts Legacy, because using unforgivable curses is my jam. Just left and right. Rocco will judge me from other rooms. He's like, Mom, I can't believe you used that. And I'm like, yeah, but I just killed that troll in one dead. Love it. Okay.
Okay. Second rapid fire. What is the best pizza topping?
I mean, I'm basic, so I just like pepperoni.
It's pineapple. Yeah.
I knew you would say something like that.
This is a hill I will die
This is
on.
clearly why you can never invite her back on the podcast.
First time. Green olives, 100%.
Oh, that's good.
Big fan of artichokes on my
Oh.
pizza, if I may say.
Bougie.
You know, I dabble. All right, you got this.
Okay, and then final rapid fire. One sentence writing tip you believe applies to everyone.
You don't got one? I mean, mine is simple. Cut.
Oh.
Just cut. I mean, it's obvious.
Just cut.
Just cut. You don't think did you cut it? You need to cut it more. There's one exception, Rebecca Seifert at the workshop. She's the only person I've ever met who I go like, you need to add some stuff. That's the only person.
Hot take.
That's her secret sauce.
Yeah. Mine is know what your story is about. And I don't mean it's not the plot. Spoiler alert. It's what the story is actually about. You know, what story you're trying to tell. How is the character different at the end? And maybe they're not. Maybe that is the story. Themes. Yeah. Yeah.
I need to figure that out. Mine would be write the kind of book that you enjoy reading.
That's a good one too.
Yep.
And mine is just surround yourself with great writers. Hey, and on that note, okay, we did it. Oh my gosh, thank you to our sponsor, Scissors.
Scissors. Cut.
That shit.
We always have sponsors.
Yeah.
We were having so much fun we forgot about sponsors.
Well, I just
Scissors.
I made one up real good.
Red highlighters.
Just make the page. Okay, so we did it. Thank you so much for being
Thank
us.
you so much for having us.
Okay.
And we can look for your next book sometime in 2026.
Yes, autumn 2026. Unbearable. I'm not sure when yet though.
Okay. You heard it here first.
Haley Martinez.
Maybe not first, but you heard it here.
They might have heard it here first.
All right.
Okay.
Until next time, happy writing.
Happy
everybody. Bye.
writing.
Thank you so much for listening to Witches of Workshop. Be sure to find us every Wednesday on your favorite podcast platform.
And remember, if you want to be featured on Witches of Workshop, please send 1 to 10 pages and a synopsis to witchesofworkshop@gmail.com.
Until then,
Happy writing.